Today's first reading might sound a little strange. God comes to Moses and says, look, I want to help you. I want my chosen people to win this battle. Here's the deal. You have to keep your hands above your head. What's going on with that? Why would God do something like that? That story also brings back images, I think, of other stories in the Old Testament, especially where God does similar things. The Battle of Jericho, for example, where His chosen people end up taking the city of Jericho. Instead of just knocking the walls down and letting His people storm the city, He makes them parade around the city for 7 days, blowing trumpets and dancing and praying. Why might God do something like that? Why would God make a battle hinge on the fact whether or not Moses keeps his hands above his head? Why would God make the taking of a city by His chosen people hinge on whether or not they followed His instructions with trumpets and marching and praying? I think there are a couple of lessons, though, maybe that God is trying to get across to us in that first reading. And it might do us well to look at those for just a moment. The first thing I think that possibly we can take away from that first reading, and the fact that God asks Moses to keep his hands above his head so that the Israelites can win their battle. We hear, I think, the first point referenced in the gospel as well, when Jesus says to pray always without becoming weary. Pray always without becoming weary. Certainly, weariness is something that we all know. There are times in our life where we struggle, where we're weak, where we're tired. And we need people. And that is what Moses needs in the first reading. He's unable to do it the entire time. He's unable to carry out God's instructions the entire time because he gets tired. And what happens when he gets tired? His friends come and prop him up on either side. His friends that have been with him all throughout the Exodus come and support him on either side and allow him to continue on with his prayer. I think that is a beautiful analogy for what we need as people as well. One of the great sins, one of the great problems that we see throughout the Gospels and indeed throughout the great writings of the saints and the church fathers is the temptation to think that we can do it all on our own. That we can do it all on our own. Indeed, that was the first sin that was committed by Satan. He felt like he could do it all on his own. And indeed, our pride sometimes tempts us to think that we can do it all on our own. But Christ says we are to pray without becoming weary. We are to turn to those in our midst, those who we know in our family, those here in our parish, and those in the larger community as well. Do we allow them to prop us up? Do we seek their help when we're tired or when we're weary or when we're weak? Or do we try and tough it out all on our own? Do we try and tough it out all on our own? The other thing I think that Jesus is trying to get across to us in the first reading, that God is trying to convey to us in that Old Testament passage from Exodus, is the idea that what we do here, now, in time, on earth, it matters. God could have blasted the walls of Jericho. God could have allowed the Israelites to win their battle without any interaction. He could have done it all on his own without any human being playing a role in that. But he chose. He willed it to happen. He decided, he said, you know what? I want my power to come through you, Moses. I'm giving that power, I'm allowing it to work through you as a human being. I think God is trying to say to us, and He says to us over and over again, what we do here on this earth, it matters. We're not just actors on a stage in some meaningless drama, and then God comes in at the end and makes it all clean. He does that but He also allows His power to flow through us. And He allows and He sanctifies and He makes sacred our life, our day-to-day things that we do. And that is an amazing thing, an amazing humility on the part of God to allow His will to be placed into the hands of us. Ultimately, that placing of the power of God into our hands takes place here at the Eucharist. He allows the work of us as a community, what we do here in this Mass, through our work, through our prayer, through the very things that we do in our actions. He allows His Son to come to us in our midst and offer Himself once again as a gift to us. May we receive that gift, and may we realize the amazing power that God has given to us in allowing His will and His power to flow through us in time, this day